It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Good morning. Welcome to the Travel and Cruise Industry News podcast on the first day of September 2022. Boy, we got a busy show this morning. The lead story is updates for Royal Caribbean Transatlantic sailings. Also today, the St. John up in New Brunswick opened a brand new crew facility. American Symphony christened in Natchez, Mississippi. Expect headaches in Port Canaveral Saturday. Airlines update customer service policy. A robotic arm thrill ride? I don't think so. Celestyal cruises ease travel requirements. Amsterdam to house asylum seekers on a cruise ship. And much more live here at 11 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. And by the way, the Cruise Amigos will be on this afternoon. So you know, we're back. Today is International Cabernet Day. Most of you know I'm not a big wine drinker, but I will have some on occasions. I'm not enough of a wine drinker to know the difference from one to another. But if we have Cabernet here, I won't mind breaking out a bottle and having a glass with dinner this evening. You might want to do the same thing. Sip on a little Cabernet. All right, I hit a milestone today, folks. Today is my 200th podcast. Sweet. If you are listening to me via the podcast, welcome aboard. You can always access the podcast via my blog, which is accessadventure.net, or wherever you get your podcasts from, like TuneIn, Spotify, Podchaser, Pandora, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any of those. Just search for Travel and Cruise Industry News, and up pops that hot come on, tongue. Up pops the fat travel guy. That's what I was trying to say. All right, our buddy Lizzie Lou was in La Spezia, Italy. And she, of course, posted some pictures for me. That's in La Spezia, Italy. From on board the Wonder of the Seas. That's her daughter, looking toward shore, and an excursion that they were on. And there's the whole family. That's not an adult beverage, folks. That's an ice cream cone. I do know the difference. I'm always amazed at the narrow streets of not only Italy, like La Spezia, but Europe in general. They get a lot of mileage out of their streets, don't they? All right. I'll be back with today's news, and a lot of it, after a quick word from one of our network sponsors. Once again, today we turn to Royal Caribbean for our lead story. They have updated protocols for the Royal Caribbean Transatlantic sailings, with the summer cruise industry season about to end in Europe. Royal Caribbean International has updated its protocols for 8 different transatlantic crossings in the next 2 months. This includes information on vaccine requirements and pre-cruise testing and other guidelines, and they do differ from what we're experiencing here in the States. The affected voyages are the following: September 4th, Voyager of the Seas from Copenhagen to Boston. October 17th, Anthem of the Seas from Southampton to Cape Liberty. That's Bayonne. October 25th, Jewel of the Seas from Barcelona to Orlando. October 30th, Wonder of the Seas from Barcelona to Orlando. Of course, Orlando is Port Canaveral. October 31st, Odyssey of the Seas from Rome to Fort Lauderdale. On November 4th, Vision of the Seas from Barcelona to Fort Lauderdale. November 5th, Brilliance of the Seas from Rome to Tampa. And November 8th, Rhapsody of the Seas from Barcelona to Bridgetown in Barbados. According to the updated protocols, all guests ages 5 and older are required to be fully vaccinated against COVID prior to embarkation. This is on just these transatlantic cruises, folks. Don't get this confused with other cruises. The final dose of the primary vaccine series must be administered 14 days before sailing. The cruise line will not accept a certificate of recovery in place of full vaccination for any transatlantic sailing at this time. Guests under the age of 5 are permitted to sail regardless of the vaccine status. All guests in these sailings must submit a negative result from a pre-cruise COVID test. Guests who are fully vaccinated and up to date on their vaccination, including the booster shot when the primary vaccine series was completed more than 9 months before sailing, may take a supervised PCR or antigen test up to 3 days before boarding. Guests who are fully vaccinated but do not meet let me say that again. Guests who are fully vaccinated but do not meet the up-to-date requirement may take a supervised PCR test no more than 3 days before sailing. If those guests opt for an antigen test, the test must be taken no more than 24 hours before sailing. Unvaccinated guests do not need to take 2 tests, but must be sure the tests are administered within the appropriate time from the embarkation. No unsupervised self-test will be accepted for any pre-cruise testing, regardless of the vaccine status or the timing of the test. All guests on board transatlantic sailings are also required to complete a pre-cruise health status questionnaire. Furthermore, guests aboard the Anthem of the Seas transatlantic sailing must also upload their documentation to the ArriveCam app prior to embarkation due to the ship's scheduled call in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Masks remain an option on board all vessels, though different ports of call may have mask requirements. Guests must comply with the local guidelines where applicable. As with all guidelines during this ever-evolving situation, protocols and requirements are subject to change. So beyond me, folks, whether you're on one of these 8 transatlantics that have special set of protocols, or you're on any other cruise, make sure you check with your cruise provider or a legitimate online source to get the most up-to-date information you can on vaccine status and pre-cruise testing. All right, story number 2 today. The Atlantic Canada cruise destination of Port St. John in New Brunswick has a brand new space just for crew members when the ship pulls into port. Crew members who work for major lines like Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian work approximately 10 hours per week, 7 days per week, for up to 8 months in many cases. So when they do get a chance to walk off the ship and spend some time for themselves, it helps to have a place to go. As part of the newly opened Area 506 Waterfront Container Village, the crew lounge is a perfect spot for crew to kick back, relax, and connect with their friends and family back home. Made from 3 recycled 40-foot shipping containers, the lounge is a testament to the community's welcoming spirit. The lounge space, located adjacent to the Marco Polo cruise terminal, is private and exclusively for cruise ship crew only. It includes a rooftop patio overlooking the harbor, 2 levels of comfortable seating, tables with device charging stations, dedicated high-speed free Wi-Fi, and air conditioning. I know all my buddies on cruise ships will enjoy that. American Cruise Line has announced that its newest riverboat, American Symphony, was christened on Tuesday in Natchez, Mississippi. The christening marks the cruise line's 5th new riverboat in 4 years and the line's continued growth on the Mississippi River. American Cruise Lines and the city of Natchez hosted a celebration by welcoming cruise guests as well as the community of Natchez and Vidalia to be part of the official christening ceremonies. The debut of American Symphony will soon be followed by our sister ship, American Serenade, which is scheduled to debut early next year. The 2 coastal vessels will bring the fleet to 17 small ships, exploring 34 different states. American Symphony holds 175 guests in all balcony staterooms, including suites and single cabins. The vessel showcases the cruise line's modern series hallmark, a patented opening bow and retractable gangway, as well as the Deck 5 skywalk with an ellipse skyline, which cantilevers over the deck, over the deck for cafe. That's what I'm trying to say. American Cruise Line ships are equipped with handicapped accessible rooms. Most ships' lounges, sun decks, and dining salons are accessible by wheelchairs and other walking aid devices. The ships are also equipped with an elevator for the ease of movement between decks. And that's been the biggest bugaboo about river cruises. This is an accessibility issue, at least for me and for those like me. So good for them. Start looking for a river cruise. All right, the next story has to do with Port Canaveral. You know, they have a little thing getting shot off now. It's scheduled for Saturday. The Artemis rocket. Huge traffic delays around Port Canaveral this weekend, I'm afraid. After the first launch attempt of Artemis 1 mission was scrubbed for technical issues, NASA has announced the next launch date for Saturday. The launch window will open at 2:17 p.m. and heavy traffic may significantly impact cruise debarkation and embarkation for 4 ships that are at Port Canaveral that day. Carnival Cruise Line's Carnival Freedom and the line's flagship Mardi Gras, Royal Caribbean's Mariner of the Seas, and Disney's Disney Fantasy are all going to be in port. So combined, the 4 vessels have a passenger capacity of roughly 15,300. So accordingly, for both debarking and embarking guests, you could have 31,000 cruise travelers moving in and out through Port Canaveral on Saturday. While this is less than the 36,000 that they were dealing with on Monday of this week, more traffic is expected since this is going to be on a weekend, number one, and a holiday weekend, number two. So it's going to be a mess. They're expecting 100,000 to possibly 200,000 people, plus the people getting on and off cruise ships. So, it's a launch window in the afternoon. People go to the beach, which is right there where they can see it. It's just, wow, it could be nuts in Port Canaveral. All right. The U.S. Airline industry, or most of them, got together. Major U.S. airlines have updated their customer service agreements to offer meals and hotels when flights are canceled. Carriers tweaked their policies after receiving pressure from the Biden administration to step up consumer rights in the wake of a summer plagued by flight cancellations and delays. American Airlines, Delta Airlines, United Airlines, JetBlue, and Southwest have all published updates to their customer service policies this week. The updates come on the eve of the Labor Day weekend rush, and as airlines have canceled more than 40,000 flights since June, according to data, but they're trying to be better prepared for this rush of flights over the holiday weekend. That, folks, and like a fool, I just cut myself off the broadcast. I hope I'm back. Okay, let's try that now because I had an echo in the background. Somebody stick in the chats. Am I back on the air? Please. Kenneth or Hot Air Tom or Nikki or Cindy. Somebody, can you hear me now? You're back. Thanks, Mike. Okay. Now, man, I got to quit doing that. I went to the wrong thing and cut it off. All right. The U.S. flagship for MSC is the upcoming Seascape. They released details on the first robotic arm at sea amusement ride. Robotron, as the ride will be called, will offer guests the thrills of a ride fit for land-based amusement parks while at sea. MSC also unveiled plans for 2 new VR-based experiences and other high-tech entertainment options for thrill seekers. The amusement ride, which has 3 seats suspended from the robotic arm, will propel guests in all directions and flip them upside down while flying at 175 feet above the level, hanging over the edge of the deck. Riders can select their own thrill level and speed, from family friendly to an ultimate high intensity thrill. Guests can also set the mood with the choice of music, lights, and much more. Beyond them will be a giant video screen where the rhythm and bass are visualized while the robotic arm bounces and twists with the music. Ruben Rodriguez, president of MSC USA, said, "We are excited to give our guests more access to cutting edge experiences, which is why MSC Cruises is committed to bring our newest ships to the U.S. We're the first cruise line to offer something like Robotic at sea, and we can't wait for thrill seekers to discover the ride of their life, surrounded by the beauty of the Caribbean." But that's not all, folks. The flight simulator will be a 360-degree virtual reality ride, more like a roller coaster than anything else. Riders can choose from various worlds and go for the ride of their life. The virtual reality motorcycles will be a virtual reality experience where guests can ride a motorcycle complete with special effects such as wind and water splashes. An old favorite of many, the MSC Formula Racer. Guests sit down in a replica Formula One car and drive around the world's most famous tracks, such as Monaco, Miami, or Monza. MSC Seascape will also feature an immersive XD 3D cinema. Guests put on their 3D glasses and dive into alternate worlds where players will battle it out against zombies, skeletons, and more. I don't think so, folks. Not at least the robotic thing. No. I'll leave that for Hot Air Tom or Pittsburgh Jason or maybe Pete. By the way, folks, I did go to Pete's Cruising Tips, Pete, a YouTube channel. He did do that silly drop, that 8-story thing on the Norwegian Prima. It's right there on video. I'm not going to do that one either. So, all right, Celestyal Cruises is the latest cruise line to dump some, at least, protocols. Following the recent trend amongst major cruise lines, Greek-based Celestyal Cruises released today that it will ease current travel protocols, no longer requiring masks on board, previously required for all indoor areas. As the number one choice for those traveling to the Greek islands and Eastern Mediterranean, the cruise line will continue to require guests over 11 years of age to be fully vaccinated. However, Celestyal pre-cruise testing timeframe has been relaxed further for added convenience. Previously, guests were required to test within 24 hours. For sailings beginning August 26th, all guests will need to have a negative COVID antigen test or negative PCR test taken within 72 hours of embarkation. And finally, this morning, over in Amsterdam, Amsterdam plans to host at least 1,000 asylum seekers on a cruise ship after the crisis in a migrant center left people sleeping in the open. The city council said the huge ship will be moored in the Vestelijk Havengebied industrial zone away from the city's canals and tourist attractions for at least 6 months from October 1st. The vessel could eventually accommodate up to 1,500 people if needed. The announcement comes after aid agency warned of a humanitarian crisis at the Tel Appel Migrant Center in the northern Netherlands, where a 3-month-old baby died last week. Amsterdam City Council said in a statement that the plan, which is funded by the central government, will help to address the worrying humanitarian situation in Ter Apel. Amsterdam is the second Dutch city to host refugees on a cruise ship after the municipality of Velsenjord, after the government first announced it in July that it planned to seek asylum on board. Planned to seek asylum on board ships. Over the weekend, Dutch authorities began busing asylum seekers from the Tel Apel Center, where more than 700 people were sleeping in outside the gates. The crisis was largely caused by staff shortages after the government cut capacity during the coronavirus pandemic. So that's going to wrap up the news portion of today's travel and cruise industry news podcast. In the meantime, let's hop over in the chat room and see who is fussing at me today. Okay. Uh-oh. I see we've got the sex bomber. All right, took care of that. Carol's with us. Mike's with us. Carol says, happy Cabernet Day. Yes. Cindy's with us. Hot Air Tom's with us. I did get word, in case you're following the key debacle, Hot Air Tom has put the keys in the mail. So they're getting closer to my pocket. Cindy says, beautiful pics, Lizzie. She does such a good job. And her daily videos are just phenomenal. Nikki is with us. Hi, Nikki. Amy says, American Queen Voyages is handicap accessible rooms. I've seen people with scooters on the 2 ships I've been on in the U.S. Good to know. I am going to start doing some checking. I'm just saying. Okay, Chillie Cruises, let's go for a drive down to Port Canaveral. Sounds like a good party. Now, I'm hoping that all clears out of my way before I got to drive through that again. I wouldn't want to get in that mob of people as much as I'd like to see one of those rockets. No. I can watch it on television. But yeah, it's going to be brutal. I just hope the cruise ships get off on time. It's not delayed from all that. Kenneth says, good morning to everybody. Mike says, I'm back. Yeah, I appreciate it. Kenneth, I appreciate it. Yes. Tom, the mask collector, hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much. Yeah, I switched over from my story, my script from the story to the pictures. And when I was going back, I went to the wrong place. So I'll go away, phone. I'm not answering the phone in the middle of the show. Anyway, Cindy says that ride looks frightening. Yeah, wait till you see some of these. Like, you got to go look up Peep's channel just for that one. And this one's got to be worse. I'll stick with Norwegian go-karts. Now, I can probably handle the go-karts. I could probably handle the Formula One racer as well. Okay, folks, I have to take this. Sorry about that. That's my oxygen delivery. And I had to tell him just to walk in the door. So the oxygen guy is on his way back. Kenneth says he'll stick with Norwegian go-karts. I agree, Kenneth, totally. The salami and pepperoni. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Anyway. Katie's with us at Better Late Than Never. Hi, everyone. Hi, Katie. Good to have you with us. And another sex bomber. I'd already taken care of one. Blocked user. Oh, an error occurred. Why did an error occur? Anyway, let's see if I can do another one. Block user. Okay, it's giving me an error. I'll ignore it. Hot Air Tom says the keys are on the way to Forest. They are not watching the show today. Yeah, my keys watched the show yesterday. That was priceless, Hot Air. Popover. I made popovers for breakfast this morning. So delicious with apricot jam. Z Show Cruise Fun. What's up, everybody? Good to have you with us again. Haven't seen you for a while. Welcome back. All right, guys, that is going to end me for the day. I will be back this afternoon for the Cruise Amigos, which is live 2 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock Central Time, Central Daylight Time, 7 p.m. British Summertime for the Cruise Amigos. And then I'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 p.m. for Travel and Cruise Industry News. This is the old fat travel guy. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you tomorrow. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, think about cruising, and hopefully one day soon we'll all get together on the high seas. I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry, so if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.